I need your opinion, Sophia called from the bedroom. I looked up from the dinner I had just finished cooking. Coming. She stood in front of the mirror wearing a black designer gown. 5 years ago, she would have smiled and asked, "How do I look?" Tonight, she didn't smile. "Does this dress make me look powerful enough for the investors?" she asked. "It looks amazing." She barely glanced at me. "I know." I forced a small smile. "You always look amazing." She picked up a diamond necklace. "This one or the silver?" "The silver. It matches your eyes." She nodded. "Good." I reached for my tie. "What about me? What about you? Does this suit look okay?" She finally looked at me. The silence hurt more than words. "You still have that suit?" "It's my favorite. It also looks 5 years old. I thought it was fine." She sighed. "Ryan, tonight isn't just another dinner." "I know. There will be reporters, board members, investors." "I understand. You need to make a better impression." "I'll do my best." She grabbed her purse. "Your best hasn't been enough lately." Those words stayed in my head during the entire drive. I remembered when Carter Dynamics was nothing more than a tiny office with broken chairs. Back then, Sophia had cried after every rejected investment. I had held her hand. "We'll make it." She always believed me. I sold my software startup because she needed money to keep her dream alive. I never regretted it. Watching her succeed felt like my own victory. At least it used to. The hotel ballroom glittered with crystal lights. Employees welcomed Sophia with excited smiles. "Congratulations, Ms. Carter. Great speech last week. The company is breaking another record." She thanked everyone with perfect confidence. Then people noticed me. "Oh, hello. Nice to meet you." Their smiles became polite, almost forced. One executive whispered to another, "That's her husband?" I pretended not to hear. Sophia heard it. She didn't defend me. Instead, she walked 2 steps ahead. Photographers gathered near the entrance. "Ms. Carter, over here. One picture." Sophia posed naturally. I stepped beside her. One photographer lowered his camera. "Can we get one of just the CEO?" Sophia answered before I could. "Of course." I quietly stepped away. The flashlights kept exploding while I stood alone. A familiar voice interrupted my thoughts. "Ryan." I turned. "Lena." Lena Morris had worked with us from the beginning. She smiled sadly. "It's been a while." "It has. You look tired." "So do you." She laughed softly. "Still protecting her?" I promised I would. She looked toward Sophia. "I miss the old days." "So do I." Lena hesitated. "Can I tell you something?" "Always." She lowered her voice. "People around the office have changed." "What do you mean?" "They don't respect you anymore." I felt my stomach tighten. "I know." "No," she whispered. "You don't know how bad it's become." She glanced across the ballroom. "Especially Damian Brooks." I followed her eyes. Sophia's O stood beside her, smiling like he already owned everything. The way he looked at me made one thing painfully clear. He didn't see me as Sophia's husband. He saw me as someone already replaced. Damian walked toward me with a glass of champagne. "Ryan." "Damian." He smiled. "You enjoying the party?" "I'm trying." "I'm surprised you came." I frowned. "My wife invited me." He shrugged. "Some people don't belong in rooms like this." Before I could answer, someone tapped a microphone. Sophia stepped onto the stage. "Good evening, everyone." The crowd applauded. She spoke confidently about growth, profits, and the future of Carter Dynamics. Every sentence reminded me why I had fallen in love with her. Then an investor raised his hand. "Ms. Carter, your company has grown incredibly fast. Who has been your biggest supporter?" I smiled without thinking. For years, she had always answered that question with my name. Sophia looked at me. For one hopeful second, I believed nothing had changed. Then she laughed. "My biggest supporter?" The audience laughed with her. "I'd honestly say my executive team." Another investor pointed toward me. "And your husband?" Sophia's smile faded. "Oh, Ryan." She paused. "He's just my husband." The room became strangely quiet. Someone chuckled. She continued. "He prefers staying at home." Another executive joked. "Lucky man." More laughter followed. Sophia shook her head. Sometimes I wish he looked and acted more like the CEOs in this room. The laughter grew louder. Heat rushed into my face. I couldn't breathe. Damien slowly clapped beside me. That's the spirit. I looked at Sophia. She never once met my eyes. I quietly placed my untouched drink on a table and walked toward the exit. No one stopped me. Outside, the cold night air hit my face. I pulled off my wedding ring and stared at it. So this is what I've become. A familiar voice answered behind me. No. I turned. Ethan Cole stood there with his hands in his pockets. I saw everything. I didn't know you were invited. I wasn't. One of the investors is my client. I laughed bitterly. Perfect timing. He looked at the ring in my hand. You finally believe me? I don't know. You gave up your company. I know. You built her dream. I know. You forgot to build your own. His words hurt because they were true. I loved her. I know you did. I still do. He sighed. Love shouldn't make you disappear. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Finally, I asked, what am I supposed to do now? He smiled. I've been waiting years for you to ask that. What do you mean? I've been working with investors. I stared at him. So they want someone who actually knows how to build technology. I sold that life. No. He shook his head. You paused it. I felt something inside me move for the first time in years. Hope. Ethan stepped closer. Ryan, start another company. I laughed. Compete against Carter Dynamics? Exactly. You're serious. I've never been more serious. I looked back at the brightly lit hotel. Somewhere inside, Sophia was probably celebrating another successful night. She believed I would return home, apologize for embarrassing her, and continue living in her shadow. She didn't know I had already made my decision. I slipped my wedding ring into my pocket instead of putting it back on my finger. I won't beg anymore. Ethan smiled. Good. I took one last look at the woman I had loved for 5 years. Then I turned away. That was the moment I stopped living for my CEO wife. That was the moment I started becoming her biggest competitor. The next morning, I woke up in Ethan's guest room. He knocked on the door. You alive? Barely. Good. That means we can work. I laughed for the first time in weeks. You never change. I don't plan to. We sat in his kitchen with 2 cups of coffee. He slid a folder across the table. Open it. I frowned. What's this? Your future. Inside were printed copies of business plans I had written years ago. You kept these? I knew you'd need them someday. I stared at the pages. I thought everyone forgot. I didn't. Silence filled the room. Finally, I looked up. What if I fail? Ethan smiled. You already survived something worse. What? Giving up your own dreams. His words hit harder than any insult Sophia had ever spoken. I closed the folder. I'm in. That's the Ryan I remember. 2 days later, Ethan drove me to a downtown office building. Who's meeting us? You'll see. We entered a conference room where a confident woman stood beside the window. She turned toward me. So you're Ryan Walker? I am. She extended her hand. Victoria Hayes. I shook it. Ethan says you're the best investor in the city. She smiled. He exaggerates. No, I don't, Ethan replied. Victoria sat down. I read every business proposal you ever wrote. I blinked. You did. Every single one. And you were ahead of your time. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She leaned forward. Why didn't you build any of them? I chose my wife's dream instead. And did she appreciate it? I stayed quiet. Victoria nodded. I thought so. She opened another folder. I'll invest $2 million. I almost dropped my coffee. Without asking for changes? I have one condition. What is it? Never abandon your own future again. I looked at Ethan. He grinned. What did I tell you? I smiled. You were right. 3 weeks later, Nova Edge Solutions officially existed. The office was small. The furniture didn't match. Half the computers were secondhand. I loved every corner of it. Ethan walked inside carrying pizza boxes. Grand opening feast. I laughed. This feels familiar. It should. It reminds me of the old Carter Dynamics. Except this time, he said, you're building your own company. I looked around. This one stays mine. The front door opened again. A young woman stepped inside carrying a laptop. Am I late? You must be Mia Bennett. She smiled. The interview isn't canceled, is it? Not unless you changed your mind. She looked around the tiny office. I've worked in worse places. I laughed. That's comforting. She placed her laptop on the table. I've followed your software designs for years. You know my work? I learned programming because of your articles. I blinked. I stopped writing those years ago. I know. You read them anyway? They made me believe great technology should solve real problems. For the first time in years, I felt someone admired me for who I was instead of what I owned. I extended my hand. Welcome to Nova Edge. She shook it firmly. I'm ready to build something people will remember. I smiled. So am I. 1 week later, another knock echoed through the office. I opened the door. A tall man adjusted his glasses. I'm Oliver Grant. I smiled. Our financial strategist. I prefer professional problem solver. I like that. He walked inside and studied the room. We're small. For now. He nodded. That's all I needed to hear. Before lunch, another visitor arrived. A woman with a bright smile held out her hand. Rachel Morgan. Our marketing expert? The one and only. She looked around. This office has terrible branding. I laughed. We've been open for 1 week. Exactly. She pointed toward the blank wall. Your company needs a story before it needs fancy furniture. I crossed my arms. And what story do you see? She answered without hesitation. A company built by people who refuse to quit. Ethan clapped. I told you she'd fit perfectly. Within a month, our tiny office felt alive. Ideas covered every whiteboard. Late-night pizza became normal. Coffee replaced sleep. Nobody complained. One evening, Mia pushed her chair away from her desk. I finished the prototype. So soon. You hired me for a reason. I tested the software. It worked beautifully. This is incredible. She smiled. I had a good teacher. Oliver entered carrying several reports. I have news. Good or bad? Good. Tell me. We can survive another 6 months even without major income. Rachel walked in behind him. I have better news. What is it? A government technology agency wants to meet us. The room became silent. Ethan looked at me. That's the contract Carter Dynamics has been chasing. I slowly stood. They'll never choose us. Rachel smiled. They asked for us by name. 2 weeks later, I entered the meeting room with my team. The committee leader welcomed us. Mr. Walker, thank you for meeting with us. He studied our presentation. You built this company quickly. We built it honestly. He smiled. That's refreshing. For 2 hours, we answered every question. Nobody exaggerated. Nobody made impossible promises. When the meeting ended, I wasn't sure what would happen. 3 days later, my phone rang. Mr. Walker? This is Ryan. I'm calling from the technology agency. My heart pounded. Yes, we've decided to award the contract to Nova Edge Solutions. I closed my eyes. Thank you. After the call ended, I looked around the office. We did it. Everyone jumped from their chairs. Mia hugged me. Oliver raised both fists. Rachel laughed. Ethan wrapped an arm around my shoulder. I told you. You did. At that same moment, my phone buzzed again. An unknown number. I answered. Hello. A familiar voice replied. Ryan. My heart recognized it immediately. Sophia. Her voice sounded colder than ever. I just received today's industry report. I imagine you did. She took a slow breath. Who exactly is Nova Edge Solutions? I smiled without realizing it. The company you never believed I could build. Silence filled the line. Then she whispered, almost to herself, Impossible. I looked through my office window at the team that believed in me from the beginning. For the first time since leaving my marriage, I didn't feel broken. I felt unstoppable. And somewhere across the city, my former wife had finally discovered that the husband she dismissed had become the competitor she feared most. 3 months later, Nova Edge appeared in every major business headline. I tossed a newspaper onto the conference table. Rachel picked it up. They're calling us the fastest-growing technology company. Oliver smiled. Our numbers speak for themselves. Mia looked at me. You should be proud. I am. Ethan walked in carrying another newspaper. There's more. I opened it. The headline read, NovaEdge challenges Carter Dynamics for national tech contract. I shook my head. I never imagined this. You earned it, Ethan replied. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered anyway. Ryan. Sophia's voice came through. So it's true. What is? You built NovaEdge. Yes. You planned this. No. You wanted revenge. I wanted my life back. She stayed silent. Finally, she spoke again. You stole our biggest client. I competed fairly. You embarrassed me. I closed my eyes. You embarrassed me first. The line went quiet. Then she whispered, You've changed. So have you. I ended the call. Nobody in the room asked questions. They already knew enough. Later that afternoon, Oliver entered my office carrying fresh reports. We have another problem. What happened? Carter Dynamics lowered their prices. They're desperate. They're also losing money. I frowned. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't. Before I could answer, my assistant knocked. Mr. Walker? Come in. A woman named Grace Mitchell is here. I don't know her. She says it's urgent. Send her in. A few moments later, a calm woman entered carrying a thick folder. I'm Grace Mitchell. I'm Ryan. She sat across from me. I've spent 20 years investigating corporate fraud. I leaned forward, and I believe someone inside Carter Dynamics has been stealing millions. My heart skipped. Who? She slid photographs across the desk. Damian Brooks. I stared at the evidence. Bank transfers, hidden accounts, fake invoices. This can't be real. It is. Does Sophia know? Grace shook her head. I don't believe she does. I looked down again. So Damian has been using her. Yes. And she has no idea. Not yet. The room felt strangely quiet. Grace folded her hands. I came because several transactions connect directly to contracts your company lost years ago. I looked up. You think he sabotaged me? I think he removed anyone who threatened his control. I slowly leaned back. So what happens now? I can expose everything. Today. If you want. I stared at Damian's photograph. For years, I had blamed Sophia for everything. Now I realize someone else had been poisoning her company from the inside. Grace watched me carefully. What are you thinking? I answered honestly. I don't know whether I want justice. I paused. Or whether I want the truth to reach Sophia without my help. Grace nodded slowly. Sometimes the hardest decision isn't exposing evil. What is it? Deciding whether to save someone who never tried to save you. Her words stayed with me long after she left. For the first time since our divorce, revenge didn't feel as simple as I had imagined. I barely slept that night. Grace's folder stayed on my desk. Every document pointed to the same truth. Damian had stolen from Carter Dynamics for years. The next morning, Ethan walked into my office. You look exhausted. I've been thinking. About Sophia? About justice. He sat across from me. What are you going to do? I honestly don't know. He noticed the folder. What's that? Evidence against Damian. He opened the first page. His eyes widened. This is huge. I know. You could destroy Carter Dynamics today. I don't want innocent people hurt. What about Sophia? I looked out the window. She made her choices. So have you. Before I could answer, Rachel rushed inside. You need to see this. She handed me her tablet. Business news filled the screen. Carter Dynamics shares fall after investor concerns. Another headline appeared. Board questions CEO leadership. Oliver entered a second later. Our stock just climbed another 12%. I nodded quietly. Good. He frowned. That's all. I've learned winning doesn't always feel the way I expected. Later that afternoon, Ethan convinced me to attend an industry conference. As soon as I entered the ballroom, people surrounded me. Mr. Walker. Congratulations on NovaEdge. We'd love to discuss future partnerships. For years, nobody had noticed me. Now, everyone wanted my attention. It felt strange. Across the room, I saw Sophia. She looked tired. The confidence that once filled every step had disappeared. She walked toward me. Ryan. Hello, Sophia. We need to talk. I'm listening. She folded her arms. Every newspaper compares us. I've seen them. My board thinks you're trying to destroy me. I'm trying to build my company. You could have started anywhere. I did. You chose my industry. I chose the work I love. She looked away. I barely recognize you. I answered softly. You stopped recognizing me a long time ago. Before she could respond, a voice interrupted us. Ms. Carter. An older man approached. I recognized him immediately. William Foster, one of the company's biggest investors. His expression was serious. We need to return to the board meeting. Sophia sighed. I'm coming. William looked at me. Mr. Walker. Mr. Foster. He nodded respectfully. Congratulations on your success. Thank you. He turned back to Sophia. The directors have more questions about the financial reports. Her face changed instantly. I already answered them. They're asking again. She walked away without another word. I watched her disappear into the conference room. Something inside me felt unexpectedly heavy. I didn't hate her anymore. I pitied her. She still believed I was the reason everything was falling apart. She couldn't see the real enemy sitting beside her every day. As I left the conference, my phone vibrated. It was Grace. I've confirmed everything. What now? The authorities are preparing their investigation. I took a slow breath. I won't interfere. You've made your choice. Yes. I slipped my phone into my pocket and looked back at the towering Carter Dynamics headquarters. For years, I had believed losing my marriage was the end of my life. Now I understood it had only been the beginning. And somewhere inside that building, the woman who once called me embarrassing was slowly losing everything she had chosen instead of me. The news broke before sunrise. I switched on the television. The anchor spoke calmly. Federal investigators have launched a formal fraud investigation into Carter Dynamics after evidence of financial misconduct surfaced. I stared at the screen. Damien's photograph appeared beside Sophia's. My phone rang. Ryan, Grace said. It's official? Yes. They served warrants this morning. I closed my eyes. So it finally happened. The truth always catches up. An hour later, Ethan entered my office. You've seen the news? I have. He sat across from me. How do you feel? I expected satisfaction. And I just feel tired. He nodded. That's because revenge isn't healing. Before I could answer, Rachel rushed inside. Our phones won't stop ringing. What happened? 3 investors want meetings today. Oliver followed behind her, and Carter Dynamics just lost another 20% of its market value. Mia looked at me. You okay? I will be. Nobody celebrated. Nobody smiled. We all knew lives were changing. By noon, every news channel covered the same story. Damien was escorted from headquarters by investigators. Reporters surrounded him. He hid his face. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I answered. Hello. A familiar voice whispered. Ryan. Sophia. I need to see you. I stayed quiet. Please. I don't think that's a good idea. You deserve answers. So do you. She took a shaky breath. I confronted Damien. What happened? He laughed. I frowned. He laughed. He told me I was easy to manipulate. Anger tightened inside me. He admitted everything? Yes. What else? Her voice broke. He said he never cared about me. Silence filled the call. He only cared about my position. I closed my eyes. I'm sorry. I don't deserve your sympathy. No. I deserve the truth. Another long silence followed. Finally, she whispered, I'll come to your office. You don't have to. I do. She ended the call. 2 hours later, my assistant knocked softly. Mr. Walker. Yes. Miss Carter is here. My heart skipped. Send her in. The door opened slowly. I almost didn't recognize her. The confident CEO who once commanded every room was gone. Her eyes were red. Her shoulders slumped. She looked exhausted. She stopped in front of my desk. Hi. Hello, Sophia. She looked around the office. So this is Novi Edge. It is. It's beautiful. Thank you. She lowered her eyes. I remember when we built our first office together. So do I. Tears filled her eyes. I never thought I'd be standing here like this. I remained silent. She took a slow breath. I came because I owe you something. I waited. The truth. For the first time since our marriage ended, I saw no pride in her face. Only regret. Sophia wiped her eyes with trembling hands. I don't expect forgiveness. I stayed quiet. I only need you to hear me. I'm listening. She looked at the floor. I thought success would make me happy. And did it? No. I kept chasing bigger numbers, bigger offices, bigger headlines. Her voice cracked. While I was chasing all that, I stopped seeing the man waiting for me at home. I remembered every lonely dinner, every canceled anniversary, every promise she had broken. She whispered, I made you feel invisible. You did. I told myself you would always stay. I almost did. She nodded slowly. I know. She looked around my office again. You built all this. I didn't build it alone. She frowned. What do you mean? My team believed in me. I smiled faintly. Ethan reminded me who I used to be. Victoria invested when nobody else would. Mia trusted my ideas. Oliver protected this company. Rachel gave it a voice. Grace protected the truth. William respected my work. I took a slow breath. They became the family that stood beside me when I had nothing. A tear rolled down her cheek. I should have been that person. You should have. She covered her face. I ruined everything. Neither of us spoke for several moments. Finally, she looked at me. Ryan. Yes. Come home. I felt my chest tighten. There is no home to return to. We can rebuild. We already rebuilt. I mean us. I shook my head. The man who begged for your attention doesn't exist anymore. I was blind. I know. I can change. I believe you. Hope flashed across her face. Then give me another chance. I looked into her eyes. I forgive you. She smiled through her tears. My next words erased that smile. But I won't come back. She froze. Why? Because forgiveness and reconciliation are not the same thing. She stared at me without speaking. I continued quietly. I forgave you so I could heal. I didn't forgive you to repeat the same story. She lowered her head. I understand. I don't hate you anymore. I know. I honestly hope you find peace. She wiped away another tear. I spent years searching for success. And I lost the only person who truly celebrated every small victory with me. I remembered the tiny apartment where we once dreamed together. Back then, we had almost nothing. Yet we had been happy. She reached into her purse and placed something on my desk. It was our old wedding photograph. I carried this every day after you left. I picked it up carefully. We looked so young, so hopeful. She stepped back toward the door. I finally understand what wealth really is. I looked at her. It's not money. She nodded. It's the people who stay beside you before the world applauds. I smiled sadly. You learned that lesson. Too late. She opened the door. Before leaving, she turned one last time. I'm proud of you, Ryan. Those were the words I had wanted to hear for years. Now they no longer had the power to change my heart. After she walked away, I placed the photograph inside a drawer instead of displaying it. Some memories deserved respect. They didn't deserve another chance. For the first time, I closed that chapter of my life without anger. Only acceptance. 6 months passed faster than I expected. Nova Edge had grown beyond every dream I once buried. Rachel walked into my office holding an envelope. This arrived this morning. I opened it carefully. My eyes widened. What is it? Ethan asked. An invitation. From who? The International Business Leadership Conference. He smiled. The biggest conference in the country. I nodded. They want me to deliver the keynote speech. Mia laughed. I knew this day would come. Oliver grinned. You earned it. Victoria folded her arms. Do you know where it's being held? I looked at the invitation again. The Grand Empire Hotel. Ethan smiled knowingly. The same place. I nodded slowly. The same ballroom. Silence filled the room. Rachel broke it first. Life has a strange sense of humor. It really does. Conference day arrived before I felt ready. Standing outside the hotel, I looked at the entrance. I remember leaving this place with nothing. Ethan stood beside me. And today, I have everything that matters. He patted my shoulder. Let's go. The doors opened. People turned toward us immediately. That's Ryan Walker, the founder of Nova Edge. I've been waiting to meet him. Dozens of people walked over. Hands reached toward me. Business cards filled my pockets. I smiled politely. Thank you. It's great to meet all of you. An organizer approached. Mr. Walker. Yes. The audience is already seated. I'll be there shortly. As I walked through the hallway, familiar memories returned. The photographs, the lights, the stage. Every corner reminded me of the night my marriage ended. Only one thing was different. This time, I wasn't walking alone. My entire team walked beside me. Mia whispered, "Nervous? A little." Rachel smiled. "They're waiting because they respect you." Victoria adjusted my tie. "Speak from your heart." "I will." Oliver laughed. "That's what made this company successful." The stage manager approached. "Mr. Walker, we're ready." I nodded. Before stepping forward, I looked at my friends. "Thank you." Ethan smiled. "For what?" "For reminding me who I was." He shook his head. "You did the hard part." The announcer's voice echoed through the ballroom. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founder and CEO of Nova Edge Solutions, Mr. Ryan Walker." The curtains opened. I took my first step onto the stage. Before I could say a single word, the audience stood. The applause echoed through the enormous ballroom. I froze. For several seconds, I couldn't move. The same room where people had laughed at me now welcomed me with respect. I looked across the crowd. Near the back of the hall, I saw Sophia. She stood quietly beside the exit. She wasn't dressed like the powerful CEO I once knew. She looked calm, almost peaceful. When our eyes met, she gave me a small smile. Not one filled with pride. Not one filled with regret. Just quiet acceptance. I smiled back politely. Then I turned toward the microphone. This time, nobody saw an embarrassing husband. They saw a man who had finally learned his own worth. I looked across the audience and smiled. "Thank you." The applause slowly faded. "I've been asked to speak about success." I paused. But success isn't where my story began. The room became silent. I once believed sacrificing everything for someone else was love. Several people nodded. I gave away my dreams because I thought helping another person reach theirs would be enough. I smiled faintly. I was wrong. Nobody interrupted. I also believed expensive suits, big offices, and impressive titles decided a person's worth. I looked around the ballroom. They don't. I took a slow breath. The people who stand beside you when you have nothing are your greatest wealth. My eyes drifted toward Ethan. A loyal friend can change your future. I looked at Victoria. One person willing to believe in your ideas can rebuild your confidence. I smiled at Mia. A teammate who trusts your vision can create miracles. Then I glanced toward Oliver and Rachel. A strong family isn't always connected by blood. The audience applauded again. I continued. Never measure someone's value by money. Measure them by loyalty. Measure them by honesty. Measure them by how they treat people who cannot give them anything in return. The room stood once more. This applause lasted even longer. After the conference ended, dozens of people surrounded me. "Mr. Walker, incredible speech. You inspired my entire team. Congratulations." I thanked everyone before walking toward the exit. Near the hallway, Sophia waited quietly. "Ryan." "Hello." She smiled gently. "I won't keep you long." "I'm listening." She looked around the empty hallway. "I sold most of my shares." "I heard. It saved the company." "I'm glad the employees kept their jobs." She nodded. "So am I." For a moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, she said, "Your speech wasn't really about business." "No, it was about us. It was about lessons." A tear formed in her eye. "You never blamed me. There isn't any reason anymore." She took a deep breath. "I spent years searching for success. And what did you find?" "My biggest failure." She looked directly at me. "Thank you." I frowned slightly. "For what?" "For loving me when I didn't deserve it." I stayed quiet. "For leaving when you finally respected yourself." Another tear rolled down her cheek. "And for teaching me a lesson success never could." I smiled sadly. "I hope you find happiness, Sophia." "I hope you do too." "I already have." She nodded. I can see that. She stepped aside. I won't stop you this time. Thank you. I walked past her without looking back. Outside, Ethan leaned against my car. Everything okay? Yes. Any regrets? I looked up at the evening sky. None. He smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. I unlocked the car. Before getting inside, I looked once at the city skyline. Months earlier, I had walked away from this same place feeling broken. Today, I stood stronger than I had ever imagined. My greatest victory had never been defeating my CEO wife. It had been becoming the man who no longer needed her approval. I started the engine with a peaceful smile. The chapter of betrayal had finally ended. The story of my new life was only beginning.